My child, something changed in your soulmate's heart because of you, and the surprising part is that you may not even realize what you did. It was not some grand gesture that everyone could see. It may have been something quiet, something simple, something you did when you had absolutely no idea it would matter so deeply. And right now, that memory may be returning to them in a completely different way. They may be looking back at a moment involving you and suddenly understanding what they could not understand before. That is where this story becomes unforgettable, because the thing that brought them deep joy was not what you said, it was what your actions revealed about the kind of person you are. Think about the moments when you could have demanded attention but chose patience. Think about the times when you could have walked away emotionally but still carried kindness in your heart. Think about the little things you did without expecting applause, recognition, or anything in return. Your soulmate may have noticed far more than you thought. And there is something especially powerful about realizing that someone's heart can be touched by an action long after the moment has passed. Maybe they once wondered whether your feelings were genuine. Maybe they questioned whether your presence in their life was temporary. Maybe they tried to convince themselves that they should stop thinking about you. But then something happened inside them, a realization, a memory, a quiet comparison, and suddenly the story they had been telling themselves no longer felt complete. They remembered you differently. They remembered your patience, your sincerity, your ability to care without making everything about yourself. And that realization may be bringing them a kind of joy they have struggled to explain. Not loud excitement. Not something superficial. A deep emotional warmth that comes from finally recognizing the value of something they once took for granted. But here is where the story takes an unexpected turn, because your soulmate's happiness may have nothing to do with receiving something from you. It may be connected to seeing what you have become. There is a particular kind of joy that appears when someone realizes the person they cared about did not break under difficult circumstances, did not become bitter, and did not lose their ability to love simply because things became complicated. Your soulmate may have expected you to remain stuck in an old chapter, yet somehow you continued growing. You continued becoming stronger. You continued building a life, protecting your peace, and carrying yourself with more confidence. And that could be the very thing that made their heart pause. Imagine realizing that someone you once knew is still the same beautiful soul at their core, but now they possess a strength you did not fully recognize before. That realization can create an emotional shock of its own. Suddenly, an old memory does not feel like an old memory anymore. It feels like evidence. Evidence that what existed between you had meaning. Evidence that your kindness was not an act. Evidence that the connection was not built entirely on words. And perhaps the most surprising part is that your soulmate may be replaying one particular moment in their mind, the moment when you did something for them, understood them, forgave something, encouraged them, or simply gave them space when they needed it. At the time, they may have acted as though it meant little. But now they may understand that moment differently. They may realize you were giving them something rare. Emotional safety without demanding anything in exchange. And that realization can bring genuine happiness because sometimes people do not understand the value of a person until they look back and notice how different life felt when that person was present. And just when you think the biggest revelation has already been uncovered, there is another layer to this story. Your soulmate may be feeling deep joy because something you did quietly answered a question they have carried for a long time. The question may have been simple: did they really mean it? Did you really care? Did your kindness have depth? Did your patience come from genuine affection? Did you ever truly understand them? Maybe they never asked you directly. Maybe pride, uncertainty, timing, or emotional distance kept that question locked inside them. But your actions may have answered it without a single dramatic conversation. This is why your smallest choices can sometimes become the loudest messages. You may have moved forward without speaking badly about them. You may have protected their dignity even when you had every reason to explain your side. You may have wished them well privately instead of trying to make them feel guilty for losing you. And if they have recently learned or noticed something about how you handled the situation, it could have changed the emotional picture completely. They may have expected resentment but discovered grace. They may have expected bitterness but saw maturity. They may have expected you to become cold but instead saw someone who kept their heart open while becoming wiser. That can create a powerful feeling inside someone who has been carrying unanswered questions. Suddenly, they are not remembering you because they are lonely. They are remembering you because they are beginning to understand you. And there is a huge difference between those two things. Loneliness looks for someone to fill an empty space. Understanding makes someone realize why a particular person occupied such a meaningful place in their heart in the first place. And now comes the part you were never supposed to overlook, because your soulmate's joy may be connected to one very specific realization: you did something that made them feel seen without even trying to prove that you saw them. Maybe you remembered something they once told you. Maybe you understood a silence they could not explain. Maybe you gave them encouragement at a moment when they secretly needed it. Maybe you believed in them before they believed in themselves. Or perhaps you simply treated them with kindness during a season when they were struggling to feel worthy of it. Whatever that moment was, it may have stayed hidden inside their memory far longer than you realize. And now, as they look at their life from a different perspective, that memory could be glowing brighter. They may be smiling because they finally understand the emotional weight of what you did. They may be thinking, "How did I not recognize this before?" That question is important, because it means the joy is not only about you, it is about the realization itself. They are discovering something they once overlooked. They are connecting pieces that previously seemed unrelated. A conversation. A gesture. A goodbye. A moment of patience. A look. A decision. A small act of kindness. Suddenly, all of it feels connected. And perhaps that is why this moment feels so significant in the story of your soulmate connection. Not because you need to chase them, force an outcome, or prove anything, but because something about you has already left an impression strong enough to survive distance, silence, uncertainty, and time. Your soulmate may not know what happens next. You may not know either. But one thing is becoming increasingly difficult for them to ignore: whatever you did, it reached a place inside them that ordinary moments never could. And the deeper they think about it, the more they may realize that the person who gave them that feeling was not someone they could easily forget. What if the moment your soulmate is remembering right now is the exact moment you thought meant nothing? You may have already forgotten the details, while they may still remember the feeling. That is what makes this revelation so powerful. Sometimes a person does not carry the exact words someone said, they carry the way those words made them feel. And your soulmate may be realizing that you gave them a feeling they have struggled to find anywhere else. Perhaps you made them feel understood when they were hiding behind a smile. Perhaps you noticed something in them that nobody else seemed to notice. Perhaps you encouraged them when they were quietly doubting themselves. You did not need to make a grand announcement about it. You simply did what felt natural to you, and then you continued with your life. But somewhere inside your soulmate, that moment stayed alive. Now they may be looking back and realizing that your kindness was more meaningful than they understood at the time. They may remember how easily you could have judged them, yet you chose compassion. They may remember how you could have demanded explanations, yet you gave them room. They may remember how you could have made their difficult moment about yourself, yet somehow you made them feel that they were not alone. And that realization can create a deep kind of happiness because it reminds them that someone once cared about their heart, not merely their presence. There is something incredibly emotional about discovering that a person's love was present in the details all along. Your soulmate may be connecting those details now, one by one, and the picture becoming clearer could be bringing them genuine joy. Then something even more surprising begins to happen. They may be realizing that your absence did not erase your influence. In fact, it may have made certain memories louder. A song, a familiar phrase, a place, an ordinary situation, or even a simple habit could suddenly remind them of you. Not because they are trapped in the past, but because certain people leave emotional fingerprints on moments that seem completely ordinary. Your soulmate may have experienced something recently that reminded them of the way you used to respond, the way you used to laugh, or the way you made a difficult moment feel lighter. And instead of pushing that memory away, they may have allowed themselves to feel it. That could be where the deep joy comes from. They may be realizing that what they felt around you was not imaginary. It was not simply a passing mood. There was something about your presence that made them feel more understood, more accepted, or more hopeful. And perhaps the biggest surprise is that they are not only remembering what you did for them, they are remembering who they were when they were around you. Maybe they were more open. Maybe they laughed more freely. Maybe they felt comfortable enough to reveal parts of themselves they normally kept hidden. And instead of sadness taking over, there may be a quiet smile because they finally understand that those moments were precious. They were not ordinary. They mattered. There is another possibility that makes this story even more compelling. Your soulmate may have recently discovered something about you that completely changed the way they interpret your past behavior. Maybe they learned that you were dealing with more than you ever told them. Maybe they realized that when you stayed calm, you were actually carrying emotions you never wanted to place on their shoulders. Maybe they discovered that something they once interpreted as distance was actually your attempt to respect their space. Or perhaps they finally understood why you made a particular decision that once confused them. Whatever the detail may be, the realization can change everything because suddenly an old memory has a new meaning. What once looked like indifference may now look like consideration. What once looked like silence may now look like restraint. What once looked like letting go may now look like love without control. And that is a powerful emotional reversal. Your soulmate may be experiencing the strange but beautiful feeling of realizing they misunderstood something important. They may be replaying conversations in their head and thinking, "Now I understand why they did that." That sentence can carry enormous emotional weight. Because once someone understands your intention, their entire memory of you can shift. The past does not change, but its meaning does. And perhaps that is why their heart feels lighter right now. They may finally be giving your actions the interpretation they deserved. They may be seeing your patience differently. They may be seeing your loyalty differently. They may be seeing your silence differently. Most importantly, they may be seeing your heart differently. And there is one final layer to this part that you should hold on to, because the deepest joy may be coming from something you did after they thought you had every reason to stop caring. You kept moving forward without becoming cruel. You protected your peace without destroying theirs. You chose growth instead of proving a point. You became stronger without needing to make them feel smaller. If your soulmate has noticed that transformation, it could have affected them more deeply than you realize. They may feel proud of you. They may feel relieved that you are doing well. They may feel grateful that the person they remember is still there beneath everything life has changed. And perhaps, somewhere inside that realization, they are thinking about how rare it is to meet someone who can experience disappointment without allowing it to destroy their capacity for love. That may be the thing bringing them the deepest joy, knowing that whatever happened between you did not erase the goodness they saw in you. In fact, time may have made that goodness easier to recognize. Your soulmate may be looking at your journey and realizing that you did not need them to become whole. You continued becoming yourself. And paradoxically, that independence may make the emotional connection feel even more meaningful. Because now, if they think about you, it is not simply because they need something from you. It is because they genuinely value something about you. The memory is no longer just a memory. It has become a realization. And that realization may be quietly changing what they believe about you, about themselves, and about what your connection meant. There is a moment when a memory stops feeling like the past and starts feeling like a message, and your soulmate may be standing inside that exact moment right now. Something you did has begun to look different through their eyes, and the more they think about it, the harder it becomes to dismiss. Maybe you thought your gesture was too small to matter, or perhaps you assumed they had completely forgotten it. But they may remember the smallest detail. The exact way you responded, the patience you showed, the encouragement you gave, or the moment you chose understanding instead of making them explain themselves. What makes this so powerful is that your soulmate may finally be realizing that you were paying attention to parts of them they rarely showed anyone. You saw beyond the surface. You noticed the things they tried to hide behind ordinary conversations. And perhaps they did not understand how rare that was until later. Now they may be comparing that feeling with other experiences in their life, and something becomes obvious: not everyone makes them feel understood in the same way you did. That realization can create a deep emotional warmth. They may suddenly remember how natural it felt to talk to you, how easily certain conversations could move from ordinary topics into things they had never told anyone else. Maybe they once thought that connection would always be there, so they did not appreciate every moment enough. But now they are beginning to understand that some people enter your life and leave behind an emotional standard that is difficult to forget. Your soulmate may be discovering that you became part of that standard without ever asking to be. And the more they recognize it, the more that quiet happiness inside them grows. But there is something your soulmate may not have expected at all. They may be genuinely happy that you did not become the person they feared you might become. Think about how easy it would have been for you to allow disappointment to change your entire personality. You could have stopped trusting people. You could have stopped believing in meaningful connections. You could have decided that showing emotion was a weakness. Instead, you kept growing. You became more thoughtful, more selective, more grounded. And if your soulmate has somehow seen that change, it may have touched them deeply. They may not even know how to explain why seeing you doing well makes them smile. It may simply feel good to know that someone they once cared about is finding their way. There is a difference between wanting someone back and genuinely wanting someone to be happy, and your soulmate may be discovering that difference within themselves. Perhaps they are not thinking about what they can receive from you. Perhaps they are simply grateful that you are okay. That you are progressing. That you are becoming stronger. And that can bring an unexpected kind of peace. They may remember moments when you supported them without trying to control their choices, and now they may realize that this was one of the purest things about your connection. You allowed them to be themselves. You did not need to possess every part of their attention to prove that you cared. You simply wanted them to become the person they were capable of becoming. That realization could be one of the most beautiful reasons they are feeling joy right now. And then comes the detail that may completely change how they see one particular moment between you. Your soulmate may have once believed that you were trying to impress them, but they may now realize you were simply being genuine. Perhaps you did something thoughtful without expecting recognition. Maybe you remembered a detail they mentioned once and acted on it later. Maybe you noticed when their energy changed and gave them space instead of forcing a conversation. Maybe you encouraged a dream they were afraid to pursue. At the time, they may have smiled, thanked you, and moved forward without understanding the emotional weight of what happened. But now, that memory may have returned with a completely different meaning. They may be thinking about how easily you could have ignored what they were going through, yet you did not. You noticed. You cared. You showed up emotionally in a way that did not require an audience. And perhaps that is why this realization feels so personal to them. It is not about some dramatic event everyone could see. It is about the quiet evidence that you genuinely cared. Your soulmate may be discovering that your actions had a consistency to them. One kind moment could be dismissed as coincidence, but several moments begin to form a pattern. They may now be looking back and noticing that pattern. The way you listened. The way you remembered. The way you encouraged. The way you gave without keeping score. And suddenly they may understand that what they experienced with you was not ordinary attention. It was emotional presence. That can be a once-in-a-lifetime realization. Not because it guarantees what happens next, but because once someone recognizes the difference between being noticed and being truly seen, they rarely forget the person who made them feel that difference. There is also a hidden emotional twist here, because your soulmate may be realizing that one of the things they admire most about you is something you probably never considered impressive at all. It may be the way you continued caring about their well-being even when you had no guarantee that they wow.